What's up, guys?
And welcome to MG Knights. I'm TIEFly85.
And I'm TREC87. In today's episode, we wanted to talk to you about our top 5 favorite classic games.
But first, let's talk about MG Knights. We created this channel to discuss movies and game news, reviews, and Twitch streaming.
With that out of the way, let's just dive right into our number 5.
Alright, at number 5 on my list, we're going to go to get it started off. My first one on my list is Tetris. Now, I love this game. It's super simple, super easy. I mean, it's definitely stood the test of time when it comes to like something super easy. It was the very first game that I remember playing where I had to use hand-eye coordination, because I mean, obviously you got to watch the screen, but you also got to like push the buttons. It was super easy. I love that game. I would probably say one of the best variations of that game that I loved was Dr. Mario. It was great.
So my number 5 was Megaman X, the original one for the Super Nintendo. I really liked Mega Man just because I like the whole concept of just like, you know, super cool robots that could transform and this, that, and the other, you know, different powers, I guess. And it was really one of the not the first, but one of the very first Super Nintendo games that I actually played, that I remember playing. And I always just thought, you know, X was such a great character. I liked Zero better, you know, to be fair. But it was just a great platformer, and I really just loved everything about it.
Alright, moving on to number 4. Now, number 4 on my list is a pretty old game. It is Duck Hunt. I mean, it was the original gun shooter. Like, that game was so amazing. I remember when it first came out, like, you would hold the gun so close to the freaking screen and just, like, try to get the ducks, and then you could move away to make it even harder. But somehow it was, like, so accurate for being a game from, like, you know, the 80s. It was insane. But I would say Duck Hunt, definitely number 4 on my list.
My number 4, it was Super Metroid. Super Metroid, I remember, I was, again, very young when I played it, but I got lost in the world that you were on for like hours and hours and hours. And I remember when I was a kid, I remember at one point I just couldn't get any farther in the game. I didn't know where to go, couldn't figure it out, and it just, you know, it was so frustrating. And looking back on that, you know, it was such a great challenge, I think. And, you know, it just had a really great combat system, you know, and all the other, you know, platforming obviously, but also the connection that you developed with this Metroid character, at least I did. You know, tiny little baby Metroid that you end up saving, and then it ends up saving you at the very end. You know, when you're like 8 years old, that's like kind of a big deal. So that's another one that definitely sticks out in my mind.
It's a good game. Alright, number 3 on my list, we have Sonic the Hedgehog by Sega Genesis. Now, first time I ever remember playing this game, I mean, obviously it's a pretty simple side-scroller, but the depth of the game itself, like, it was super colorful, it was super easy to play, but it was one of those things where it challenged you to try to, like, always want to get every single coin and always want to get every single kill as possible, and it just had a really good little storyline to it. I mean, it just was a really fun game. I loved it. It's still great today.
My number 3, this is easy, Legend of Dragoon. This is actually, I feel like it's not as well known as it should be. It was a great original PlayStation game. From, you know, I can't remember the year off the top of my head, but, you know, it was a great RPG. I thought the battle system, especially coming off of, you know, like Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy VIII or whatever was out at the time, Legend of Dragoon came out, and then all of a sudden you had, you know, and I was really big into Final Fantasy VII, had like this, you know, the combat system where, you know, you built up your meter and you transform and you use special abilities. Thought the main character was really cool, and also it was almost like quick time events that happened during it's like when you just do an attack, like, I don't know if you remembers, but you had to like mash, you know, like X at certain times to make your character do like his full attack. And it just added a lot more interactivity to the RPG, whereas before, you know, you didn't really have that a whole. I mean, you had it like here and there, but not like that. It's a great game. Always deserved a sequel. Don't know why Square won't figure it out and do that, because it would sell. At least it would sell for me.
All right, moving on to number 2. On number 2 on my list, I have Goldeneye 007. Now, that game came out on Nintendo 64. Um, the major thing I remember about 007 is it was the start of what I wanted to be Call of Duty. Like, it literally set off that want inside of me to be like, I want to kill somebody else. Like, give me that game. I mean, the game itself was amazing. The graphics, obviously, at the time were amazing. But the multiplayer, like, that's where it sold me. The whole idea of being able to play with 4 other people all at the same time, shooting each other in the face, like, it was great. And Man with the Golden Gun. Can't get any better.
My number 2, I know this is super obvious, and it's been done a million times to death by anyone who has ever, picked up a controller. But Final Fantasy VII is my number 2 for sure. It was, one of the... I did play RPGs before that. Like, I remember playing, Final Fantasy, Mystic Quest, and, other RPGs on the Super Nintendo, but this was, the first open-world 3D RPG. And just, the storyline, completely engrossed me. It was the very first game I ever saw. I remember seeing my save data, and I spent well over 100 hours that in save data. Not counting how many times I lost to Emerald Weapon, Ruby Weapon, and how many hours I wasted trying to breed a chocobo. This game just had so much to do, and there were such great characters that, I know it's one of everybody, loves this game, but there's a reason for that. It's a great game.
It's definitely a classic.
Yeah.
I love Final Fantasy VII. Alright, let's get down to our number 1. And number 1 on my list, we have Harvest Moon for N64. Now, I know this game, a lot of you may have not played it, may have played it. I love this game. It was a super simple farm building. You basically inherited a house, you inherited a farm, and then you had to go around and make everybody love you to marry the girl, have a child, and you raised a farm. Like, it was freaking super simple game, well made, had a great story, and it literally made me want to be a farmer for a while, no joke. I loved that game. And one thing I will say about that game is, it, just as a side note for myself, but it was the first game that I actually had ever gotten my mother to actually play. So it was kind of cool, and that's why it's a little bit more personable to me for that game, is because it was something we were able to do together. So it was kind of cool. It was awesome. Harvest Moon for sure.
So my number 1, this is another really well-known game. There are a lot of other games out there I love, but this one has a very, very special place in my heart. Was Metal Gear Solid for the PS1. It was really one of the very first, adult storylines as adult as, a giant walking T-Rex robot can be. But just the themes in it and everything else, it was just so much more mature, and there were all these cutscenes, and it was just a completely different take on games, when you're used to, stuff like Super Mario 64 and all these other Banjo-Kazooie and all these other, great games, but are very, happy and have, a childlike quality to them. And then you step into this game and you're snapping necks and blowing up tanks, and it really blew me away. I mean, I was really young at the time. I was 12, 13 maybe when it came out, and I remember I first played it, I think at my cousin's house, and I think I played a demo of it or something like that, where you just play the very first area, the little, just the beginning portion, and I just remember from that point I was totally hooked, from then on. So it was definitely my favorite game.
It was a good game. I do remember playing that game. Alrighty, guys. Well, that's our top 5. What did you think of our top 5? Did you like our top 5? Did you not like our top 5? Definitely leave us your comments down below. We'd love to read them. Also, too, we'd love to hear what your top 5 games, classic games are.
And if you guys liked the video, just remember, slap that like button. If not, leave in the comments section below. Tell us what we can do to make the channel better. We had a ton of fun making this video for you guys. We hope you guys had a ton of fun watching it. We just got a couple laughs out of it. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
And always remember,
stay knightly.